I worked as a trucker in my early 30s. In terms of money, it was an okay gig, but I would often have to drive for hours and days cross-country no matter what time of day and what the weather was. One night, I was driving through a desolate marshy area after midnight. I was getting tired and out of caffeine, so I pulled to the road shoulder to take a break. I was just relaxing, watching the swamp at night and listening to critters when something large and hairy in a flash ran across the road in front of me. It gave me a fright, but I quickly moved past it. Not completely seeing it made me chalk it up to it just being some swamp animal. After a couple minutes, I was drifting off to sleep when I started seeing vibrations and hearing clunking coming from the back of my truck. What the hell? I muttered and dragged myself out of the truck. I was hearing clanking and grunting and snorts that sounded kind of like a gorilla's. I was honestly beginning to shit myself being alone in the middle of a swamp at night with some large animal behind in my truck. I remembered I had an emergency maglite flashlight that can see over 400 yards in my glove compartment. I decided to check to make sure a wild animal hadn't somehow gotten in the back of the truck and leave. When I rounded to the back of my truck, I was shocked. There's claw marks all over the door. At that moment, I heard some low, guttural noise to my right. I spun around and shone the flashlight into the bush, and there was some gigantic, hairy beast shrouded in the leaves watching me. I barely preceded what I saw before I was back in the truck and speeding as fast as that huge thing could go down the road. By now, all remnants of fatigue I had in my body were gone as adrenaline rushed through my body, and I floored it to get to my destination and obtain more coffee. It was an exhausting 4 hours, but by morning I finally made it to my destination and had a much-needed sleep in the parking lot. Since then, I had to quit my job as a trucker as the long drives away from home were getting too much for me. I've yet to figure out what I saw in the swamp, maybe a bear or a gorilla, but that's extremely unusual for the area I was in. And those claw marks? Friends and family I've told this to suggested the idea of a Sasquatch or skunk ape. I'm still on the fence about what I saw that night. All I know is that it unnerves me to recall it.
I was briefly a UPS trucker for about a year. It wasn't like the usual trucking stories you hear. I rarely did long, miserable drives, and even more rarely did nighttime drives, which I found kind of odd. There were only 3 nighttime drives I had to do during my time as a trucker, and the third one is a main part of why I've moved on to other jobs. I had a load of packages in the back and was heading through some desert area in Nevada. It was honestly eerie, a thin strip of road straight through a flat horizon of dust for miles around. It was also strangely relaxing. I was getting low on gas and food and had quite a bit to go. Luckily, I noticed a sign for a rest stop a couple miles up along the barren landscape. I decided I'd fill up and get some food, then hit the road once more, and hoped to reach my destination by early morning. I arrived at the rest stop and began filling my truck and went around the small building to use the bathroom. The bathroom, as expected, was filthy and the lights were flickering or unlit. I entered a stall covered in graffiti and sat on the toilet to take a much-needed shit. As I was sitting there, over the humming of the lights, I heard a faint whispering from the corner of the bathroom. It was so faint I couldn't tell if it was in my head or not, but now that I heard it, I continued to hear it. I finished up in the stall and started washing my hands, eager to get out of the creepy bathroom. Then I heard something I can't believe. It was my name, the faint whispering of my name. I turned around and heard it once more. I noticed a pair of black boots beneath one of the stalls the whispering was coming from, facing the door. I have to admit, I am one for ballsy confrontations, so I walked with purpose to the stall door and said as intimidatingly as possible, "Hey pal, I don't know who you are and how you know my name, but please stop bothering me and just finish up whatever the hell it is you're doing in there." Another whisper of my name was all I got in reply. I swung open the door to make another statement and froze. There was no person in front of me, just 2 empty black boots that had been placed in front of the stall. My heart started to beat faster than before. I didn't know what to think. An eerie feeling washed over me, and I heard louder and sharper than before, my name again. John! I instantly booked it out of the bathroom. I quickly as possible paid for the gas and got out of that rest stop, never looking back. A pretty creepy experience of mine I just wanted to share. And I don't know if those shoes in the stall was just some kind of prank or if there was some weirdo in there who somehow knew my name.
I was working as a trucker for Costco. One time I was driving down the I-580 in Tennessee at around 11 p.m. I was just listening to some rock on the radio when I noticed a hitchhiker on the side of the road. It was certainly odd, as we were basically in the middle of nowhere late at night. I wasn't about to stop for him, but I watched him as I sped by him. And he was wearing a long black trench coat and a hat, with a skinny thumb and eyes I swear I could see even in the dark. Reddish orange eyes like a demon's. I shuddered and just tried to focus on the road ahead. About an hour later, I had managed to forget about it when something darted across the road in front of me for a split second. My heart jumped and I slammed on the brakes, skidding to a halt. I sat there, panting, and scanning the road for any sign of what had run across the road. Then I heard a knock on the passenger side window. I turned and there was the hitchhiker from earlier, standing at the window, reddish orange eyes staring into my soul, and huge white teeth. I flipped him off and took off down the road, questions running through my mind. How was he ahead of me? There was no way he could have beaten me to that certain point from where I last saw him. Was it the same guy? Was there a whole gang of them? As I contemplated this sighting, I finally realized it. It had been an hour and a half since I ran out of coffee. I had to be hallucinating, and since I needed to get some sleep. Eventually a sign for a rest stop came off at the next exit, so I got off and pulled up to the gas pump. As I was filling up, I noticed another guy in a pickup truck at the other pump. I waved to him. He gave me a friendly smile. My nerves were already starting to dissipate. I couldn't wait until I got to the Costco in Kentucky so I could go home. I went inside and scrounged the store for decaf and some chips. I grabbed some salt and vinegar Lay's and brought them along with my cup to the cashier. He gave me the amount and I dug around in my wallet, pulled out the money and held it up to him. I looked at him and then screamed. I screamed louder than I have in my life. Standing at the cashier was a hitchhiker. I ran outside, screamed and scared for my life. I lost the chips and coffee on the way out to my car as I was getting in, I looked back and saw the hitchhiker walking out of the store yelling something. Then I noticed a friendly pickup truck driver was also a hitchhiker. There were two of them approaching my truck quickly. I started the engine and drove off. Luckily, I had already ranked the hose out. I looked in the rearview mirror and became confused to see the pickup truck driver and the cashier standing where the hitchhikers had been. I cursed. I must have somehow been hallucinating them as a hitchhiker. Today I have my theory. I think I originally saw a hitchhiker, and the stress of being a late-night truck driver made me scared of it and continuously hallucinate throughout the rest of my truck drive. Soon after I quit trucking, I never want to experience anything like this again.